black t-shirt with a splashed paint logo of red and white screaming 98 Rock FM Honolulu. In Honolulu, our 98 Rock shops had thousands of kids lining up to buy tens of thousands of t-shirts and other accessories. The product line soon went worldwide, doing especially well in Japan. Seeing a little 98 Rock shop in Tokyo with thousands of Japanese kids in line to buy the products brought smiles back to our faces, smiles that had not been there for a number of years. When I told Rich Dad about our worldwide success, he reminded me, "The process will give a glimpse of your future, but you must be faithful to the process." Although I was not out of the woods, I knew I was getting closer to my goal. The process, although tough, was working. The 98 Rock craze lasted about 18 months. It made a lot of money. It was through this one marketing campaign that I was able to pay back over $700,000 to my creditors and pay off my back taxes. At the end of the fad, I was financially back to zero. Although still without money, my BI triangle skills were stronger. My confidence was back. I had turned bad luck into good luck. I did not have to declare bankruptcy, and I had caught a glimpse of the good life, my future, at the end of the process. In 1981, an agent for the rock band Pink Floyd called. He had heard of our success with 98 Rock merchandise and wanted us to work with them on the re-release of their album, The Wall. Obviously, we jumped at the opportunity. Once again, our small company was growing into a big company. With this growth, the strength of our company's BI triangle was being tested again. Our joint venture with Pink Floyd's merchandise was successful. Soon, other bands came to us, and, without really planning it, our little company in Honolulu was solidly in rock and roll merchandising. When Duran Duran and Van Halen joined our list of rock bands, the business exploded. Simultaneously, around 1982, MTV was launched. That meant rock and roll was back, disco was dead, and once again our systems were overstressed. We were in the right place at the right time in the right business. The problem was, we could no longer keep up with demand. We also knew we could no longer produce products in America. The costs of government regulations, labor laws, and factory space were too much for a little company. In order to expand, it was much more economical to move our manufacturing to Asia. The three partners worked day and night expanding into Asia. It was about 6 months of hard work. Not 24/7, but at least 27. I was virtually living in New York or San Francisco. Dave, our other partner, was in Taiwan and Korea, and my brother kept the Honolulu operations going. Operating in time zones that spanned half the globe, we were constantly on the phone, before cell phones and email, staying in touch and building a bigger BI triangle. With an expanded BI triangle, the money once again poured in. Occasionally, I would stop in and see Rich Dad. During this period of time, we were not on the best of terms. He was still angry because he thought I had not listened to his advice just before the crash of the original wallet business. Although not happy with me, he was still very giving with his time and advice. Even when I reported that our new wallet business had been rebuilt and I had learned a lot from the process, he remained a little grumpy. In hindsight, rebuilding the business was a priceless experience. My two new partners and I had all learned a lot and had grown up a lot. We were less flaky. We were smarter business people, and our cash flow was the proof. Our new BI triangle was not leaking or collapsing. It was holding its own. One day, my partner Dave suggested I go with him to Korea and Taiwan to see our operations. Since I had only been in San Francisco and New York during the expansion period, I had not gone to Asia to see our factories. As stated in an earlier chapter, it was on this trip to Asia that I saw the kids in sweatshops, and my career as a manufacturer ended. Mission accomplished. On the plane ride back from Asia to Hawaii, I realized that my mission was accomplished. Sitting in my seat, I began looking back at the process. As if it were only yesterday, I remember deciding to join the Xerox Corporation to learn how to sell in 1974. My mind also brought back memories of the day in 1976 when my friend Larry and I decided to start the nylon surfer wallet business part-time. In 1978, I was #1 in sales at Xerox, and our surfer wallet business was being written up in GQ, Runner's World, and Playboy. Larry and I left Xerox to run our tiny business full-time. I recalled all the high times and then the crash. My emotions sank as I remembered how badly I felt when I told my family, my creditors, and the tax department that we were shutting the business down. I remembered the lessons from Rich Dad during this period. A smile crossed my face when I thought of Dave, my brother John, and I agreeing to rebuild the business and our success with 98 Rock, and then with MTV and rock and roll. Now the business was strong, and it was time to move on. My mind kept saying, "Stay. It's now time to make a lot of money. You're back on top again. Why leave now? You're just about to get rich. The hard work is done. Your dreams will come true." Yet, in my heart, I knew it was time to move on. Deciding to move on was tough, especially with the money beginning to pour in. I struggled for months with the conflict between my head and my heart. Many times when I received my paycheck and bonus check, I definitely wanted to stay. Yet, I knew my mission to learn the fundamentals of the BI triangle had been accomplished. I could now be competitive in the business world. The problem was, I did not like what I had to do to stay competitive. I did not want to employ kids in horrible conditions that would probably scar many of them for life. In late 1983, I let Dave and my brother John know that I was leaving the business. I asked for no financial compensation. I had received more than I wanted. Meeting Kim. Just as I was preparing to make these changes in my life, I met Kim. Still the disco duck of Waikiki, I had met her months earlier, but she would not have anything to do with me. It must have been the long-collared shirts and disco boots. It did not bother me, since Waikiki was full of beautiful young women. For some reason, after I returned from Asia, Kim came back into my thoughts. I asked her out again, and she turned me down again. This went on for 6 months. I would run into her, talk to her, ask her out, and she would turn me down. I would call her, and she would turn me down. I sent flowers, and she turned me down. Again and again, she turned me down. I tried every sales tactic I learned in sales training on her. I tried the puppy dog close, the Columbo close, the assume the sale and close, but none of them worked. Finally, out of tricks from my sales bag, I stopped being a disco duck salesperson and applied what I had learned from the marketing classes I had been taking at night. In marketing, a rule of thumb is to do your market research first. With my marketing cap on instead of my sales cap, I began asking around to find out who this woman named Kim really was. In marketing, it is called knowing your customer. The first person I asked was a guy who knew her from work. When I began asking questions, all he did was laugh. "You don't have a prayer," he said. "Do you know how many guys are after her? She has cards, flowers, and phone calls from guys like you all day. She probably does not know who you are." He was not helpful, so I kept digging. Finally, I was having lunch with a female friend of mine, and I mentioned I was not getting far on my market research project, codenamed Kim. Phyllis cracked up after she heard my story. "Don't you know who her best girlfriend is?" "No, I don't." Laughing hysterically, Phyllis said, "Her best friend is Karen. your old girlfriend." "What?" I said. "You're kidding me." "No, I am not," laughed Phyllis. Giving Phyllis a big hug and kiss, I ran out the door and back to the office. I had a phone call to make. To Karen. The split between Karen and me had not been the most pleasant, so I had some patching up to do. After I had made a few belated apologies, Karen listened to the story of my 6-month pursuit of Kim. She, too, laughed her head off. Finally composing herself, she asked, "So, what do you want me to do?" Taking off my marketing cap and putting on my salesperson's cap, I asked for what every salesperson is trained to ask for from a satisfied customer. I asked for a referral. "You want what?" screamed Karen. "You want a referral from me? You want me to recommend to her that she go out with you? You've got your nerve." "Well, that is why I was #1 in sales," I said as a joke. Karen did not laugh. "Okay," she said, "I'll talk to her, but I warn you, that is all I am going to do. No more favors." Karen did talk to Kim and gave me an excellent referral. About 6 weeks later, our calendars finally cleared, and we finally had our first date on February 19th, 1984. A new process begins. Our date was a table overlooking the beach and a simple walk along a white sand beach with a bottle of champagne. I did not have much money, so that was about as romantic a date as I could think of for a good price. Sitting on the beach at the foot of Diamond Head, Kim and I talked until the sun came up. We had a lot of catching up to do. That night, she told me about her life